Oh, okay. Sounds very pleasant and looks very pleasant on the satellite picture. Whilst you've got it, I don't know whether Lucy is up early, but he'll be in my skip. Could you give a call to Lucy? I'll just try it. Hang on a minute. Lucy, Gulf Harbour Radio, are you on frequency? Could you try, please, Andrew? Good morning to those on streaming. I'm just waiting to get Lucy, who's on his way from Hobart to Opua, and he won't be very happy because I think the winds are right on the nose, so we'll just wait for iCandy to find him. 7.5, he can't be in the northern zone.
The other east. The wind is northerly 15, basically 7.5 at the core.
Oh, I've got excellent coffee, so I won't repeat it. Others would have heard you. I was surprised that he would be doing 7.5 with that course of 060, and it's a northerly 15. So he's hard on it, but making good progress. So that's good. All right, thanks, Andrew. I presume all is well on board. Over.
Lucy, is all well on board, over?
Thank you very much. All right, I think you said late morning tomorrow. And I presume our Echo boat will be almost smelling the rum in Bundaberg by now. Is there anybody else that we had from last week that wants to check in before I get sort of underway here? Good morning, everybody, by the way. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286. We're always fairly flexible at this stage of the game, and we'll start into the serious weather stuff on the half hour. We've had an absolutely beautiful weekend. It's like summer back here in New Zealand at the moment. At the moment it's 18 degrees, 1017.9 on the bar, and a very, very light, can't hardly see it, but the meter says 2 knots from the northeast. So it's just been absolutely delightful weather. We know it's going to turn to custard in the middle of the week, but we're really enjoying it today, and we hope that they are in the USA when it's their Memorial Day tomorrow, which is actually today. Memorial Day in the USA, so a big holiday for everybody, while we think about those folks that enabled us to live in the way we are now living. That should not be forgotten, should it? All right, is there anybody else who wants to call in? Please call now. Well, good morning, Alan. So you're back in our radio world now. Give us your position, over.
Roger, 2640 south, 16759 east, brother.
Yep, it's got all that. Excellent. Carry on.
Roger, course 3102, speed 6 knots, cloud 50%, wind 10 to 15 east northeast, sea calm 12 half a metre east southeast, bar 1022.
Okay, a very, very clear signal. So your whatever you did with your radio has certainly worked. Quintessa on their way to some very out of the way place. 2640 south, 16759 east, 310 true course at 6 knots, 50% cloud cover, 10 to 15 east northeast. Calm seas with only a half a metre east-southeast swell, 1022 on the bar. That sounds rather pleasant, over.
Yeah, Roger, and heading to Newcal, over.
Oh, you're going to check into Newcal, are you, over?
Roger, I've got a few days to kill before I go to the other place, over.
Oh, roger that. All right, so heading to Newcal. So there's a few people there that you'll probably recognise. All right, I shall pass that on to Denise. Sounds very pleasant so far. Certainly a lot better than what Makushla was reporting going to Fiji from Minerva. Just sounds a bit uncomfortable, actually. Just got the wrong one here. Where are we? Makushla. He's up at 21, 28 and 179.46. So you might as well call it the date line. 18 to 20 east-southeast, back into northeastern squalls and gusting 25. Oh, that system is just not going to leave you guys behind. 8/8, full cloud cover, and a 2-metre regular east swell with the odd exception. And short frequency, about 5 to 7 seconds. All right, we'll have to wait and see what David comes up with. It's been scratching his head. Everything is changing, as you probably all know, quite rapidly. And good morning from Sabu. Sabu, thanks, Jeff. Clear skies up there, 25, 1013 and light winds. All right, I'll just quickly go through some interesting news. We had about 6 boats actually in River Bay, and had a very, very good report from River Bay, and I'm just trying to find it to let you know that the Navionic chart, and this is from Jan and Jordan on Alcyon, the Navionic chart in River Bay is completely wrong. So if you're heading to River Bay, just make sure that you ignore the chart and go by the French beacons, which are in fact perfect in the anchorage. Very easy checking in there. The gendarmes do all the paperwork. They give you a copy and you send it off to Papeete by the local post. You can get a free internet voucher from them, and it's 4 hours, and you can get the internet anchored off the dock. So that's excellent. Sounds all very different from when we were there. You get free local fruits, of course. They're bananas, grapefruits and guavas are everywhere. And they now get a 3 times a month delivery, cargo delivery, which is certainly different from when we were there.
We had a walk to do.
Yes, we had to walk a lot of places. But anyway, they have had some very, very rough weather there. They had a terrible trip because they just managed to get it really bad. But there's about 6 boats there. One other boat from Opua, didn't give the name, arrived just after them with the same weather, but somebody who left in April had an actual dream trip. So it just depends what you choose to go in if you're heading to River Bay, but there's a half a dozen boats there at the moment, all trying to wait for decent weather to go further. Spent a bit of time late last week with people trying to sort out this computer access for the synoptic charts. These are important to get, as David keeps harping on about. And there was a bit of problem, particularly going through SailMail. Jim and Max sorted that out. And there really shouldn't be any problems now, unless you're going through NetService. And they are still having problems at their end. I've been toing and froing with the lady there in their IT department. So if you're trying to get it direct from them, it might still be a problem, because certainly when I tried what she said, nothing would work on my computer. So probably the best way to do it is, as discussed by Max, and go through his site, and you can get it through WinLink or SailMail or Direct or Meridian or whatever you want to do. It should be working. And the New Zealand ones, he says, are only about 20 kilobytes, so quite doable if you've got a fast internet. And that's not too big, actually, so it doesn't need to be super fast. Talking about internet, if you are in the States now, there has been some hacking going on. The NSA developed it was a sort of a malware thing called Eternal Blue. It was developed by the NSA as a cyber weapon, but unfortunately they lost it. And in about 2017, it got picked up by Russia, China, and North Korea, and they are now using it back against the USA in various cities that have a bit of an aging infrastructure. we hear a lot about aging infrastructure from the USA lately. These several cities are very vulnerable to attack, and they are being attacked. It can paralyse hospitals, airports, road and shipping. It closes down all sorts of basic communication things like when you sell your house and what to do with email and all that sort of stuff. So quite a few cities in the USA are in fact being hacked as we speak by the NSA's own development, which is kind of a bit of an embarrassment, I guess. Going on the computer theme again, some of you have got the WinLink, the sort of I think they call it RMS, and it's all a mystery to me because I still use the old WinLink if I need to. But to get the various charts or anything else you might want to get from an internet website, John on Amazing Grace has detailed this very, very clearly, and I have put that on the Gulf Harbour Radio website, ghradio.co.nz. It's under radio and communication, so if you click on that, you go down, there's a section on GRIBs. It covers the GRIBs the way I used to get them and display them. And then the next article is about how to obtain GRIBs, for example, using the RMS system. All right, just a little bit of local news here. As I mentioned, we are expecting, after our beautiful weather, rain and strong winds for New Zealand this week, which means, I suppose, that there will be no oyster boats out in Bluff. They managed to scoff their way through 4,500 oysters in Bluff over their annual celebration down there, which means that we didn't get to see too many up here. Boy, the price they are, it's probably just as well, but they are very, very beautiful to eat. Those European folk who have not tried our Bluff oysters, you just don't know what you've missed. Okay, the most spectacular pictures I've seen are from Mount Everest. It's you wouldn't believe the pictures that have been in the paper. There is an absolute traffic jam near the top of Everest. The weather has been perfect for people going, and it's, of course, it's not exactly a 5-lane highway near the top. And so far this month, 10 people have died, not from any accident or anything, but just from the 2 to 3 hour wait that they have had, either to get up or to make their way back down. Most of them have died actually on the way down, not too far from the top, because they have just simply run out of oxygen. They've had 381 climbers approved this year, which they reckon is way too many. $11,000 each, so I suppose it's very good income. But the pictures were absolutely spectacular because, of course, they've all got this very colourful clothing on, and there is the peak of Everest, and then this sort of a chain of brilliant colour as people just wait to get up and get down. It's unbelievable, really. It's sort of like, oh, what do we do for the weekend? Oh, let's just climb Everest. But there you have it. All right, there was a Force 8, quite a big earthquake in northern Peru. Lots of damage, but it doesn't appear that there was anyone killed. It was way, way low, over 100 kilometres down, so evidently you don't get too much drama, but certainly it brought down a lot of the older buildings there. As I mentioned, it is Memorial Day in the USA, so there won't be too much coming from there.
And I'm taking this day off.
And you're going to take the day off, are you?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm a soldier.
yeah, well, you're a veteran. I suppose you could maybe get waited on today. I'll have a think about that.
Oh,
Theresa May leaves on the 7th of June. Finally, she's called it quits, and it is the 7th of June.
not the
So,
6th.
no, not the 6th. She's survived D-Day, and she will leave on the 7th. So there's an awful lot of stuff, but until somebody takes her place, we won't bother telling you about the half a dozen people that really want the job. Why they would want it, God only knows. And finally, for those of you who are Disneyland fans, they have now opened a Star Wars theme park in California. It's You have to make reservations about a month out to actually have a ride on the Millennium Falcon or dine in the Galactic Canteen, but it's definitely quite spectacular, although I'm sure it wouldn't make up for having to arrive and go through customs and immigration in Los Angeles, so I don't think we'll be going to the Star Wars theme park in Los Angeles. All right, it's very calm, thank you, in Opua, as it is here, and I think we've got a whole pile of weather to get going through this morning. I'll just make one more call in case Echo is on the line, and then we'll pass the microphone to David. Echo, Gulf Harbour. No, nothing here. They might even be smelling the rum a bit closer because they were going quite well. All right, here's David.
Alrighty, good morning. Fair amount to talk about, I suppose. Let's check out the synoptic picture. Pretty good way to start. The high, our high, has scooted east since we talked to you on Friday, I guess. The south portion of the Southern Cooks, a little bit south of the Southern Cooks, better way to put it. That's about where the center is. Central pressure has eased a little bit, roughly 1027 millibar, 1027. It's still strong. Now it's pushing a weak ridge to the west. And when I say a weak ridge, the isobars are fairly well spread apart. They're not nice and tight, so I term that a weak ridge. Anyway, that gets as far as about 168 east. So considering that the center is where it is, that's pushing it out quite a bit. Now there, it bumps into a different ridge, also a weak ridge from a high that's over or near the Oz Bight. Now this is a truly stretched out ridge because that's traveled a long distance as well. But as usual, as the two air masses bump into each other, we have a trough forming. And this one runs from roughly New Caledonia, not quite to New Cal, almost, to a warm front that's just to the west of New Zealand. Now, this particular front is the leading element, as I would call it, of a series of fronts that are coming across the Tasman toward New Zealand. It will be on top of New Zealand in a day or so. Now, another trough runs from New Zealand toward Fiji, almost over the run line of Fiji. And you can see that on satellite imagery. Those of you at Minerva wouldn't be able to do that very well, but if you had the internet, you'd see it. By lunch on Wednesday, moving a few days, things don't really move very much. The two ridges are still colliding at about the date line, and the Southern Ocean depression, or I should say depressions, as the system is quite complex. There's multiple centers. They lie south of New Zealand, but the country will be under cyclonic flow. Now, again, I think you understand what that means. When we have a cyclonic flow, we typically have unstable air, and we get a fair amount of cloud, and of course, frontal bands coming through. And it's not looking so red hot right now. Those of you planning on leaving New Zealand today or Tuesday will not be very happy, as the winds look to range from northerlies to northeasterlies. By Wednesday, though, sort of a sucker day, you could expect west-southwest winds. I'll get back to that in a minute. Now for the Minervans, briefly. By dinner today, it looks like northeast winds at 25 south, feeding this little trough that we talked about. Winds east-northeast about 15. Near Tongatapu, easterlies about 15. Now, you might want to recall about my warnings of some fireworks that could occur on the left shoulder of fairly large highs. Well, the prods are telling us that a low does form roughly 33 and 175 west. Now, this doesn't directly affect us. You would say, well, that's way off to the east and whatnot. But it does mess up the wind direction all the way up to 24 south over the cruising route. meaning north-northeast to northeast breezes by Thursday morning. And extending from this little minor depression is the trough that we previously mentioned. And that appears to weaken and angle toward Vanuatu, not Fiji. Doesn't look like that. Although you never can tell how quickly these things do move. Now, for those able to pull down Windy, this is a little mini lecture talk. Just bear with me here. You'll see on Wednesday a higher wind area that's almost a line of it. East of a line is where the high winds are, from roughly Minerva to Fiji. Then west of the line, the winds slow down. And then if you take a look at the rain feature on Windy, you'll pick up the trough that I'm talking about. And this is a perfect example of what we call wind convergence or speed convergence. It's it's like cars on a motorway that are slowing down for a toll. The cars all pile up because they're going slower, of course, don't they? So in this case, it's air that has no choice. When it piles up, it goes up, and that equates to cloud, and that tends to lead to precipitation, and therefore we have our trough. So that's how you can use some of these models like Windy to good effect, checking out what the winds are doing and then looking at the potential rainfall due to that. Okay, back to Minerva now. The Jason satellite, this is the radar satellite. This is showing just two swaths this morning. Couldn't sleep this morning. I got up at bloody 4 o'clock. And I pulled the satellite down. So it's not directly over Minerva, neither swath is. But it's close enough to get a pretty good idea. And what they do is they overlay that onto WW3, which is the C-state model. And it is showing for the Minerva area, they do it in feet, 6 to 8 feet, or about 2 to 2.5 meters. And that pretty much equates to a few of the reports that we've gotten. Now, Tuesday, it looks like about 2 meters from the southwest. And then on Wednesday, 1.5 to maybe 2 meters. And then a very nice 1 meter on Thursday from the southwest. There might be a slight cross sea at that point, but I think it'll be fairly trivial. Okay, the winds tomorrow, Tuesday, northeast 15 to 20. This is in the Minerva area. Wednesday, we may see a short period of late westerlies, just as that western edge of the trough band passes the area. Then a shift to light northeasterlies. While at Tongatapu at the very same time, we'll see mostly easterlies up to, I'd say, around 15 knots. Now, if you're going to Fiji from Minerva, based on all of the current model runs, and I'm looking at them all, does look doable later on Wednesday. The winds en route, mostly easterlies, I think, 10 to 15. Thursday departure is a little bit better. Light air at first, very light air. There may be a motor getting out of Minerva. Then it picks up a little bit around 22 south up to Fiji. About 10 to 15, though, easterlies. So that's enough breeze to get you going. And the direction is, I guess it makes for a close reach. So that'll be helpful. Now, Friday near Kendavu to 20 south, southeast 10 or so, I think. And Saturday brings a bit of a shift as now we're going to be in cyclonic flow and the cyclonic flow regime due to the huge complex depression from New Zealand. So it's possible that we could see light west to southwest winds from 25 south to 20 south. This is on the way to Fiji now. Then southeast winds near the group, it does change then. But those going to Tonga now from Minerva, well, you you've waited this long. You might as well hang in there until Thursday, I think. Winds should be light, maybe southeast 10 or so. Friday, southeast winds, but even lighter. Arrival on Saturday, it's about a 2-day trip, typically. Tongatapu, you could find easterlies 5 to maybe 10. Well, you wanted lighter air. There it is. Maybe didn't want it that light, but that's better than the other way. So I'm sure it's probably going to be a motor getting to whichever pass you choose to get into Tongatapu. And Sunday looks even lighter yet on the air. So anyway, that's the story there. We have another couple, if you do wait, we have a few more days to update you on the weather, and we'll do it. And as you have seen, it's changing all the time. Okay, now I'm going to jump to just looking at Tonga for today. Tonga Met has both a strong wind warning out for the group as well as that damaging swell advisory. It's still there. They still have that up. They're calling for east to southeast winds 15 to 20, rising up to 25. Rough seas, 2 to 3 meters plus a 3 meter southerly swell. So they are continuing with this rather rough weather up there. Tuesday, more of the same, but the seas do come down 2 to 3 meters, and the swell from the east about 2 to 3 meters. And the WW3 model is sort of agreeing with that part of it. Now, back to WW3, they do imply 8 to 10 feet from the east to the southeast coming from that direction. I do see Tuesday bringing easterlies about 20 knots or so, and Wednesday I'm seeing east northeast 20, and Thursday east 15, and Friday southeast 10 to 15. So as you can see, Thursday and Friday the wind definitely, I'll rephrase that, it appears to be coming down east 15 and then southeast 10 to 15 on Friday. Over to Fiji now, where Met predicts an easterly wind flow pretty much over the group, expecting about 15 to 20 knots. Other areas in Fiji, east to southeast 10 to 15, not that much of a difference. And there are wind shadow areas too, as you know. Tomorrow, southeast about 10 to 15, with a moderate southerly swell coming in. Now, looking at satellite imagery, it shows pretty fair skies. Radar shows very few scattered showers. This is the overall blend of their radar early this morning that I pulled down. It shows scattered showers here and there, hit and miss, hardly anything at all. All about the group. I couldn't even pick a spot, frankly. Wednesday shows southeast winds in the 15 knot range for the top half of the group, but east-northeast 10 to 15 for the southern half. Now that's my forecast. It's a little different from Fiji Met. Thursday and Friday, I see mostly easterlies about 15, and late, well, let's just say Saturday and Sunday, fairly light air over the group. So that's good news for those of you that are heading to Fiji from Minerva. Over to Vanuatu, it shows fair on satellite imagery, light winds today, generally from the southeast. Tuesday, east-southeast, southeast, I'd say about 10 to 15 knots there. New Caledonia today, mostly fair, partly cloudy, winds light east to east-northeast in the southern lagoon, and I would say to about 10 knots. Later today, it shifts a bit east to southeast, about 10 knots as well, and it looks like some showers coming on Tuesday. Still pretty light air, and then possibly shifting westerly on Tuesday, and then later on southwest, possibly in the afternoon. So there's your effect of the trough that we talked about that's sneaking up on New Cal. Rain's a pretty good chance for Tuesday, so showers and then a little bit heavier, we'll call it rain. Lastly, those leaving New Zealand that are on streaming, The wind the wind direction today and Tuesday is not good, as you have seen. Northerly quadrant winds wouldn't be so red hot to leave. Wednesday, though, you get lulled, the shift to the southwest. That sounds pretty good. But then on Thursday, it looks like possibly another shift to the northwest. That's not so good. And on Friday, I'm seeing northwest 20 to 30 from New Zealand up to 30 south. Saturday, near New Zealand, it does hit the fan, 35 to 40 knots west-southwest. If you're up there at 25 south, having already left a day or so ago, southwest 15 to 20, you're getting into that cyclonic flow. So that's pretty much for me. Now, we did get a note from, who was it from?
Exocet Strike, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Exocet Strike. And, well, bless their hearts, they're looking at CAPE, and that's a measure of energy, and they're wondering about that little low and the trough from it that will cause a little bit of precipitation between Minerva and the islands. Don't really use CAPE that much when we get up into the tropics. The old standbys and the subtropics are CAPE and the lifted index, and there's a number of other indexes. That's actually a little topic that I think I'll do for those that are interested. But anyway, they're picking up a CAPE about, if I remember right, they said about 1,500. And that indicates that there is a reasonable chance for thunderstorms. Well, in the tropics, there's always a reasonable chance for thunderstorms. Usually the air is very moist because it is the tropics. Warm air, a lot of moisture gets evaporated, and any air that rises is pulling that moisture up. And then if we have any bit of instability, we get quite a bit of cloud forming. And then if it's really unstable, we're going to get thunderstorms possibly, or cumulus congestus, or whatever, big clouds dropping rain. So whenever we see a trough is what I'm driving at. Whenever we see a trough up there in the tropics, oftentimes the models don't get it right. I think they minimize what the effect of the trough is because they're doing a lot of averaging when they put these models out. If you're unlucky and happen to be under a CB or a big cloud, you are going to get downward gusts that are pretty strong because it's pulling the air from that altitude down to the surface. So always be careful when you see a trough on your charts, even though the models may indicate that it's mild, weak, whatever you want to call it. Again, it just depends on that cloud that's overhead. So I always look at a trough as something to be wary of, particularly if you're sailing at night, because you have a double whammy, what we call radiative cooling. The tops of the clouds cool off very, very quickly. And so we have a situation where it's cold up at altitude and quite warm down toward the surface, and that accelerates the upward flow of air. And when that happens, we get cloud. If they're big enough and there's enough moisture, then we are going to get rain. And with that rain, the winds come down. So there you go. Always watch out for those. I'm done. I'm going to pass it over to the chief. Any questions or comments, come now. We'll update you again tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's Tuesday, and we have Wednesday. So those of you that are waiting till Thursday, we have a couple of days of looking at updates.
Yeah, and that reminds me, actually, I've been doing something quite interesting because Ponyo asked the question, who really owns Minerva Reef? Now, it's really hard to own something that disappears when it's high tide, but this, of course, has been going on. Those of us that are have been around the area for some time will know that this has been a point of contention, particularly between Fiji and Tonga over the years. And finally, it went to the United Nations, and, well, this is after an American millionaire tried to take it over. But anyway, There was a South Pacific Forum in 1972 which actually recognised Tonga could lay claim to the reef. Well, that didn't last very long. They raised a flag, but Fiji decided that they didn't want to recognise that, and under a different United Nations organisation, they declared in 2005 that that was not on, and they laid a claim to it. And in 2010, the Fijian Navy destroyed the navigation lights at the entrance to the North Minerva Lagoon. And in 2011, they again destroyed navigation equipment installed by Tongan. So things were getting pretty tense between Fiji and Tonga. And in an effort to sort of downfuse the whole situation, Tonga said, well, how about we give you Minerva Reef and you give us the Lau group, which for those that have been in the Lau, you probably think they're more like the Tongan group than they are the Fijian group. But anyway, it's all sort of still rather confused. But the Fijians don't seem to have sent any ships there recently. The Tonga does. Lucan sent a lovely picture of the ship that was there just recently, collecting more. I think it's the second trip that they've seen, collecting crayfish. The crayfish are available to anyone who stops and finds them, but I would think that in North Minerva, they're with the rather overfishing from the Tongan Navy, they might be a little bit hard to find. But certainly the reports from South Minerva, they were getting some rather large crayfish there. So we never use air. We sort of feel that when we're in the water in foreign places that it's only fair that we just snorkel if David ever gets his spear gun out or tries to catch crayfish. But that's sort of up to you. That's just our way of doing things, leaving it for the locals. But there aren't exactly any locals in Minerva Reef, so it's sort of an open reef for anybody doing any fishing, and I think that's reasonably fair. There was something else I wanted to comment about. Oh yes, if those are in Tonga now, you might want to think about using the next spell of light weather, because the ICA rally is going to be on its way, I think, this week. And they are going to check in at Tonga Tapu. And it's never very pleasant to have a rally arrive when you're anchored, because there's always too many boats for an anchorage, and they usually get used to anchoring almost on top of each other and don't seem to mind who else happens to be in the way. So you might want to think about moving on. It's a sort of a win-win situation. If you do move on, you won't get upset by people anchoring on top of you.
The pies are better anyway.
Yes, the pies are better. And the boats that are coming in on the rally will have more space, so that would be good. All right. Sounds very nice at Nanano Cape this morning too. Thank you, non-stop.
Remember at Niue?
Hang on a minute.
At Niue, this was pretty funny. There was, I guess, there was some boats coming in there. Yeah, there were boats already there in Niue enjoying the diving and whatnot. And then this other boat shows up and gets on the radio and starts saying to everybody that's at the anchorage, you all been there long enough, and you ought to free up some of these buoys for us. And we cracked up when we heard that.
Well, particularly as they couldn't move on because the wind was rather severely against them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can't anchor there.
You can anchor, yes. It is pretty deep, though. All right. Is there anybody with any questions before we start rambling here? Any questions for David? Please call. Any relays from anybody? Okay, nothing heard. So enjoy if you're American, enjoy your Memorial Day day off here. Hope it's relaxing. And we have now about 95% cloud cover here, but we're not complaining after our beautiful weekend. It was absolutely gorgeous. Okay, folks, we'll be back again tomorrow trying to make sense of the rather confusing weather situation. For those that are still out there doing something, enjoy it and enjoy your landfalls. Cheers, all the frequencies yours. Was that a boat for Gulf Harbour?